In July 2020, someone hijacked roughly 130 high-profile Twitter accounts, including Barack Obama, Elon Musk, and Apple, to run a Bitcoin scam. It looked like a massive hack. But the attackers never wrote a single line of malicious code. They simply phoned Twitter employees, pretended to be internal IT staff, and talked their way into the company's own admin tools. Stick around, because by the end of this video you'll understand exactly how a phone call can be more dangerous than any virus, and the 4 categories that explain almost every cyber attack you'll ever hear about. Welcome back to the channel. This is week 1 of our cybersecurity master course, and today's topic is attack vectors, the actual paths attackers use to break in. By the end of this video, you'll know all 4 major categories: malware, phishing, social engineering, and physical attacks. You'll see the real-world breaches that made each one famous, and exactly how to defend against every one of them. Let's get into it. Let's start with the core definition. An attack vector is the specific path or method an attacker uses to gain unauthorized access to a system, a network, or data. In other words, it answers one simple question: how did they actually get in? That connects to 2 terms you've probably already run into. A threat is someone or something with the potential to cause harm, and a vulnerability is the weakness that threat exploits. The attack vector is the road between the 2, the actual route the threat travels to reach that vulnerability. Here's an analogy that makes this stick. Picture an organization as a house. It has a front door, that's the network. It has windows, those are the individual devices. And it has people living inside, who can sometimes be persuaded to open the door themselves. Every attack vector we cover in this video is really just a different way of getting from outside that house to inside it. There are 4 main categories of attack vector, and we're going to spend the rest of this video walking through each one. First, malware, malicious software that does the damage once it's already inside your system. Second, phishing, fraudulent messages that trick a person into opening the door remotely. Third, social engineering, psychological manipulation that convinces someone to help the attacker directly, no computer required. And fourth, physical attacks, an attacker gaining hands-on access to a device, a room, or a document. Same question behind all 4: how did they get from outside to inside? Let's take them one at a time, starting with malware. Category 1, malware. The word literally means malicious software. Any program written specifically to damage, disrupt, steal from, or gain unauthorized access to a system. Here's a distinction worth remembering. Malware is usually the payload, not the entry point. It's the thing that actually does the damage once an attacker has already found a way in, often through phishing or a physical attack, which we'll get to later. So when you hear malware, think weapon, not delivery method. There are 9 types of malware worth knowing, and a few of them build directly on each other, so let's group them logically. Start with the 2 that spread differently. A virus attaches itself to a legitimate file or program, and it needs a person to actually open that file to activate and spread, much like a biological virus needs a host cell. A worm, on the other hand, is self-replicating. It spreads across a network entirely on its own, with no human action required at all. Next, a trojan disguises itself as legitimate, useful software to trick someone into installing it, named, of course, after the Trojan horse. Then there's ransomware, probably the type you've heard about most. It encrypts the victim's files and demands payment for the decryption key. Spyware secretly monitors and collects user activity without consent. And a keylogger is actually a specific form of spyware, one that records every keystroke, capturing passwords as they're typed. Adware automatically displays unwanted advertising, often bundled with so-called free software. A rootkit buries itself deep in the operating system to grant an attacker ongoing privileged access, while actively hiding its own presence. And finally, a botnet is a network of infected devices, sometimes called bots or zombies, controlled remotely, often used to launch large-scale attacks like distributed denial-of-service attacks, known as DDoS attacks. 9 types, 1 theme. Once malware is inside, it either damages, steals, spies, or hijacks, and often more than one at once. Here's malware in the real world. In May 2017, the WannaCry ransomware infected more than 200,000 computers across roughly 150 countries, within days. What made it so dangerous was that it combined two things at once: ransomware, encrypting files for payment, with worm-like self-spreading behavior. It exploited a Windows vulnerability to jump from machine to machine with no human action needed at all, which is a big part of why it moved so fast. So how do you defend against this? Keep your software patched and updated. WannaCry spread through a flaw that Microsoft had already released a fix for. Run reputable antivirus or EDR software, that's endpoint detection and response, and keep offline backups, which remain the single best defense against ransomware specifically. Category 2. Phishing. Phishing is a fraudulent communication, usually an email, that impersonates a trusted source to trick the recipient into revealing sensitive information, clicking a malicious link, or opening an infected attachment. And here's why it matters so much. Phishing is the most common way attackers get their initial foothold into a system. Phishing comes in 7 recognizable flavors. Bulk phishing is the most basic, generic messages blasted out to as many people as possible, hoping a small percentage take the bait. Spear phishing gets personal. It's targeted at a specific individual or organization, using research details to seem credible. Whaling is spear phishing aimed specifically at senior executives or other high-value targets, going after the big fish. Smishing is phishing delivered by SMS text message, and vishing is phishing conducted by voice over a phone call, exactly the technique used in that Twitter breach from the beginning of this video. Farming redirects users from a legitimate website to a fraudulent lookalike, often by tampering with DNS, the system that translates web addresses into the actual numeric locations your browser connects to. And clone phishing duplicates a real, previously delivered email, then swaps the link or attachment for a malicious one. So how do you actually spot a phishing attempt before you fall for it? Security awareness training widely uses a simple 4-letter checklist. SLAM. S is for sender. Does the email address actually match who it claims to be from? L is for links. Hover before you click, and check whether the real URL matches the link text. A is for attachments. Were you expecting this file at all? An unexpected attachment is a major red flag. And M is for message. Does the tone push urgency, fear, or pressure to act immediately? If you remember just one acronym from this entire video, make it SLAM. Here's how costly phishing can get. Between 2013 and 2015, a Lithuanian man impersonated a hardware supplier that both Google and Facebook worked with, sending convincing fake invoices. It worked. The two companies collectively wired him over $100 million before the scheme was finally uncovered. The defense here is simple but easy to skip under pressure. Verify unexpected requests, especially ones involving money or credentials, through a separate, already known channel, rather than by replying to the email itself. And enable multi-factor authentication, so a stolen password alone isn't enough to get an attacker in. Category 3. Social engineering. This is the psychological manipulation of people into performing an action or divulging confidential information. Instead of attacking a machine, the attacker attacks human trust, habit, and emotion directly, sometimes called hacking the human. And here's a connection worth pausing on. Phishing, which we just covered, is really a digital form of social engineering. It gets its own category because it's so common, but the underlying psychology is identical. It's just delivered by message instead of in person. Attackers consistently lean on the same handful of psychological triggers, and once you know them, you'll start spotting them everywhere. Authority, impersonating a boss, a police officer, or an IT admin, so the target complies without question. Urgency, act now or your account will be suspended. Panic short-circuits careful thinking. Fear, threatening consequences like legal trouble or job loss to force compliance. Trust and liking, building rapport or impersonating a familiar, friendly contact. Social proof, everyone else on the team already did this. And curiosity, an irresistible subject line, or an unlabeled USB drive left in plain sight. 6 levers. Learn them, and phishing emails start to look a lot more obvious. Those psychological levers show up in a handful of repeatable techniques. Pretexting means inventing a fabricated scenario or false identity to extract information. Think, "Hi, this is IT, I need to verify your password." Baiting offers something enticing, like a free download or a USB drive left in a parking lot, to lure the victim into compromising themselves. Quid pro quo offers a service or favor in exchange for information or access, like fake tech support offering to fix a problem you never actually reported. Tailgating means following an authorized person through a secure door, and notice, this one is also a physical attack, which we'll cover properly in a few minutes. And a watering hole attack compromises a website the target group is known to frequent, then simply waits for them to visit it. Now let's go back to that Twitter breach from the start of this video, because this is the section it actually belongs to. In July 2020, attackers didn't break Twitter's code at all. They phoned Twitter employees, posed as internal IT staff, and social engineered their way into internal admin tools. That access let them hijack roughly 130 high-profile accounts, including Barack Obama, Elon Musk, and Apple, to run a Bitcoin scam. No malware. No exploit. Just a convincing phone call. The defense: treat urgency and pressure as a warning sign, not a reason to hurry. Independently verify any unusual request before acting on it, and remember, legitimate IT staff will never ask for your password. Category 4. Physical attacks. This category requires an attacker to gain hands-on proximity to a device, a document, or a location. And here's the sobering part. No amount of firewall or encryption software matters if someone can simply walk up to an unlocked workstation or carry a server out the door. There are 6 common types worth knowing. Tailgating or piggybacking means following an authorized employee through a secured, badge access door. Shoulder surfing is simply watching over someone's shoulder as they type a password or PIN. Dumpster diving means searching discarded trash for sensitive documents, old hard drives, or sticky notes with passwords written on them. Device theft is exactly what it sounds like: physically stealing an unattended laptop, phone, or USB drive. A USB drop attack means leaving an infected USB drive somewhere it's likely to be found, hoping curiosity gets the better of whoever finds it. And badge cloning uses a cheap radio frequency ID reader, RFID for short, to copy someone's access badge without their knowledge. Physical penetration testers, security professionals hired to test this exact category, prove how effective it is over and over again. Carrying a box, wearing a high-vis vest, or simply looking confident is often enough to walk straight into a secure building. No exploit code required. This risk is significant enough that physical access testing is now a standard line item in many corporate security assessments. So how do you defend against it? Enforce badge policies, no tailgating even for people you recognize. Lock your workstation every time you step away. Shred sensitive documents. And disable auto-run for removable media, so a dropped USB drive can't launch itself the moment it's plugged in. We've covered all 4 categories separately because that's the easiest way to learn them. But real-world attacks rarely stay in one lane. A few connections worth holding on to. Phishing is a digital form of social engineering. Same psychology, just delivered by message instead of in person. Tailgating belongs to both social engineering and physical attacks. It's a physical action powered by a social trick: confidence, a friendly nod, a heavy box in your arms. Malware is often the payload, not the entry point. A phishing email or a dropped USB drive is how malware gets its invitation inside. And most real breaches chain several vectors together. A typical path looks like this. A phishing email tricks an employee into enabling a macro which installs malware, which quietly waits and later helps the attacker move through the network. If you remember one sentence from this entire video, make it this one: attackers don't need to pick just one vector. They chain the easiest ones together, in whatever order gets them in fastest. Let's do a rapid-fire recap of all 4, back to back. Malware: malicious software that damages, steals, or spies once it's inside a system. Common types: virus, worm, ransomware, rootkit. Primary defense: Patch your systems, run antivirus or EDR, and keep backups. Phishing, fraudulent messages impersonating a trusted source. Common types: spear phishing, whaling, smishing, vishing. Primary defense: verify through a separate channel, use multi-factor authentication, and apply the SLAM method. Social engineering, psychological manipulation to get a person to act or reveal information. Common techniques: pretexting, baiting, quid pro quo. Primary defense: slow down under pressure and verify identity independently. And physical attacks: gaining hands-on access to a device, room, or document. Common types: tailgating, shoulder surfing, device theft. Primary defense: badge policies, locked screens, shredding, and disabled auto-run. Here's the whole video in one mental image so it sticks. Picture a house. Malware is a poisoned gift, smuggled inside once someone's let it in. Phishing is a forged letter that tricks the person answering the door into opening it. Social engineering is a con artist, talking their way past the guard directly. And physical attacks skip the conversation entirely, going straight for the wall, the window, or an unlocked back gate. For categories: one question behind all of them: how did the attacker actually get from outside to inside? Time to test yourself, the same way this study guide recommends. Answer each question in your head before I give you the answer. Question 1. Which malware type is self-replicating and can spread across a network entirely on its own, without any human action? Is it a virus, a worm, a trojan, or adware? Question 2. Ransomware is best defined as malware that does what? Displays unwanted ads, secretly records every keystroke, encrypts a victim's files and demands payment for the decryption key, or hides deep in the system while granting hidden admin access. Question 3. True or false? A phishing email that specifically targets a company's CFO, that's their chief financial officer, by name and title, is called whaling. Question 4. An attacker sends a fraudulent text message pretending to be your bank, asking you to verify your account details. What is this called? Vishing, smishing, farming, or angler phishing? Question 5. Fill in the blank. The SLAM method for spotting phishing emails stands for sender, links, attachments, and what? Question 6. Which social engineering technique involves leaving an infected USB drive somewhere public, hoping someone plugs it in out of curiosity? Pretexting, baiting, quid pro quo, or tailgating? Question 7. Act now, your account will be suspended within the hour, is a message designed to trigger which psychological lever? Authority, urgency, social proof, or curiosity? Question 8. What's the term for following an authorized employee through a secure, badge access door, without swiping your own badge? Question 9. Which of the following is a purely physical attack vector rather than a digital one? Ransomware, dumpster diving, farming, or botnet? And question 10. In the 2020 Twitter breach we covered earlier, attackers didn't break any code. They convinced employees over the phone to grant them access. Which attack vector category does this best illustrate? Pause the video now if you want more time. Then let's check your answers. Let's go through them. Question 1. B. Worm. Question 2. C. It encrypts files and demands payment for the decryption key. Question 3. True, that is whaling. Question 4. B. Smishing. Question 5. Message. SLAM stands for sender, links, attachments, message. Question 6. B. Baiting. Question 7. B. Urgency. Question 8. Tailgating, also called piggybacking. Question 9. B. Dumpster diving, ransomware, farming, and botnets are all digital, not physical. And question 10. Social engineering, specifically vishing, since it happened entirely over the phone. How many did you get right? Drop it in the comments. Before we wrap up, here are the 5 things worth carrying with you. 1. An attack vector is the path an attacker uses to get in. Malware, phishing, social engineering, and physical access are the 4 core categories. 2. Malware is usually the payload. Phishing and physical access are often just how that payload gets delivered. 3. Phishing is a digital branch of social engineering. Same psychology, different channel. 4. Real attacks rarely use one vector alone. They chain the easiest ones together. And 5. The strongest defense pairs technology with human awareness, patching, multi-factor authentication, and backups on one side, slowing down and verifying independently on the other. That's attack vectors, start to finish. For categories, one question: how did they get in? If this helped things click, hit subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this course, and drop a comment if there's a specific attack vector you want us to go even deeper on. See you in the next video.